Hey, welcome to the Northwest Georgia football special second episode of the week. Football this week on Thursday and Friday. Um, Flying solo tonight. Um, I was a fan at the Tryon Dade game, so I'm just getting caught up on a lot of these scores myself. So I'm gonna need a lot of fan help tonight. A lot of comments, man. Tell me about the game you were at. Um, Big scoring plays, some people that stood out. Like I said, I'm catching up on all these scores myself as we go. I know it was a big night tonight for the Sonoraville Phoenix, man. That's a huge win for the Phoenix. Opening up the region play 1-0, gives them a leg up on a playoff spot. Northwest is going to have to battle back, man. Beat Central or Heritage probably to get in the playoffs. But yeah, let's go over the scores from tonight, and then we'll jump into it. Ringgold, big win over Bremen, 35-14. Cahulla Creek stays undefeated in 6 AAA, 37-16. LFO, second win of the season, 30-10 over Ridgeland. North Murray 49, Murray County 0. Last night, Haralson County beat Gordon Central 42-12. Bowden pulled it out tonight 23-18 at St. Francis, top 10 team. Uh, Christian Heritage, big win over Ezel Harding out of Tennessee, 70 to nothing. The game I was at, Tryon, 39, Dade County 21. Temple last night, 56 nothing win over Midtown. McIntosh 35-34 over Heard County in overtime. South Paulding last night 48-35 over Paulding County. Noonan 31-6 over East Paulding. These are some of the scores from last night coming across if you missed any of these. But Rockmart 48-14 over Model. Armurchie, big upset of Chattooga 54-21. Heritage 56-12 over Southeast Whitfield. Heritage stays undefeated. Calhoun in triple overtime beat Cartersville 50-48. Rome 70 to nothing over Woodstock. Cass 49-12 over Woodlands. Dalton outlasts Hiram 52-45. Darlington 38-7 over Coosa. Gilmer rolls along 45-3 over West Hall. Wesleyan 28-14 over Lumpkin County. Lumpkin County's first loss of the year. Walton kicks a late field goal to beat North Paulding 51-49. Lithia Springs 24-0 over Villa Rica. And tonight, Cedartown 39-7 over Central. The big upset we were talking about, Sonoraville 42-20 over Northwest Whitfield. Adairsville 49-7 over Lafayette. And that is it. So a big shout out senior defensive end. Uh, Kamani Pullum, several tackles for loss, batted ball, resulted in an interception. Yeah, I mean, I saw him on Cherokee Bluffs game. I was real impressed with his size, and I think he's just a sophomore. Oh, he's senior. I was thinking about somebody else out there, senior defensive end. Yep, big win for the Tigers. 2-0 in region play. It's looking more and more like Cahulla Creek and Adairsville, week 10, man, for that 6 AAA championship. Cahulla Creek with a big win tonight over Gordon Lee. I know some people thought coming in that they might have a tough time with the Trojans, but they stepped up and got it done tonight. Curious about that Cedartown Central game, man. If anybody was at the Cedartown game, um, like I said, I was a fan in the stands tonight. I didn't follow anything on Twitter. I just put the phone down, watched the game, didn't know what was going on, but I did glance at the end of the first quarter and saw Cedartown was only up 7-6. So it must have been a heck of a game. I see the final. I see Cedartown pulled away at the end, but yeah, like I said, and if anybody was at the Sonoraville Northwest Whitfield game tonight, I'd be curious to know what went on in that one. Sonoraville, big 42-20 win over Northwest. Chris McKelvey said Eli Barrow, man, had a game tonight against Central. I mean, he has a game. It seems like every week against everybody, man. But um, I think I saw a tweet earlier said he had 6 or 7 tackles for loss in the second half in that Central game. I think he is definitely one of the most underrated players in our area. Um, Shout out to Jackson Pate. Jackson Pate had over 300 yards passing tonight. Huge win for the Phoenix. Like I said, it gives them some room to breathe in 7-4A, man, because You got four teams that are going to battle for three playoff spots. I think the winner of that Sonoraville Northwest Whitfield game tonight has a leg up on everybody else. They only need one more win to pretty much secure a playoff spot going forward. Northwest is going to have to get two wins probably to make it into the playoffs. A huge game coming up next week, Sonoraville and Central. That'll be a good one. Yeah, I was telling somebody tonight, man, the thing that impresses me about Jackson Pate is the kid's playing baseball also, man, at the same time. I know he goes on the weekend and plays baseball, I think, in the East Cobb League. Um, yeah, this is going to be a good one. Cedartown at Heritage next week. I think one of the few remaining undefeated teams in our area squaring off. What's up, Chris?
What's happening?
I know this is a game you're interested in right here, huh? Cedartown and Heritage next week.
That will be very good. If Cedartown's going to get challenged in 7-4A, it could come next week. I know they struggled a little bit stopping Northwest's offense last year, but Heritage, this is a team with 18 seniors, and they're undefeated, and they're playing tough. So that will be a game to watch in 7-4A. I know Cedartown, I think Central kept it close early. Cedartown pulled away. I mean, they're legit. But I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on that Heritage Cedartown game next week.
Yeah, yeah. I heard the quarterback for Central did well tonight. You know, they were throwing the ball around pretty good. Cedartown was able to stop that rush offense, but I'm curious what happens when Cedartown matches up with a team that throws the ball 30 or 40 times a game.
Yeah, Caden Swope, and that senior core of receivers he's got. So that's an interesting matchup. And how about the Phoenix?
Yep.
Now, if I remember correctly, there was a guy Wednesday that picked Sonoraville to win this game. There was two other guys that said they couldn't.
Absolutely. This guy said Sonoraville came out flat, but Coach Pate and Coach Loving Good pumped them up, changed some things up, and stopped Northwest cold.
Yeah, that's a very solid team right there, Sonoraville. This is a team I could see gelling at the beginning of the season. I picked them as a playoff team. I still think they're headed in that direction.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard me before you came on, but I think the winner of that game is not assured a playoff spot. You need one more win going forward to guarantee yourself a playoff spot. And I mean, I know Southeast is playing well. They still have Southeast on the schedule.
Yeah.
Anything could happen, but I think that's a great win for the Phoenix.
And I think when you're talking 7-4A, next week is very important. We're going to find out. I think next week we'll have a pretty good idea, at least who three of the four are. There may be one more game to decide it, but I think there's enough big games next week to figure out at least three of them.
Here's a question for you, Chris. What are your thoughts on North Murray holding Murray to 0 and scoring 42 in the first half?
It's that high octane offense of North Murray. It's hard to stop it. I think only they can stop themselves. With some penalties and turnovers that they've had in a few games earlier. But there's a lot of playmakers there for North Murray. I think it's a solid team. They're fun to watch. I really enjoy watching them.
Who does North have next week?
North Murray will be at home against Gordon Central. Murray County will be on a bye week. Murray County, they didn't find the end zone a second week in a row. I talked to some of the kids after the game. They were kind of down, but they're looking to regroup in this bye week. I think it's still pretty cool how that North Murray County game, regardless of what happens, what the score is, they all meet after the game. Have a prayer at midfield. They come together. So I got a picture of that. I posted that. I thought it's always awesome. Cool to see it every year.
Yeah, that's not something you see a lot in a rivalry game.
Yeah, that's always a hard hitting game. It's always there's always maybe a little shoving after every whistle, and but to see them come together after the game, that's always a neat sight to see.
It says Sonoraville senior linebacker Christian Mullins had 15 tackles. Man, tackling machine. Plus, Brant Bryant made several big plays, had a huge receiving touchdown.
Yep. Fly,
Yeah.
Phoenix, fly.
Like I said, right before you came on, man, somebody said Jackson Pate threw for 300 yards tonight,
I
300
believe
plus.
it. Jackson Pate's got a good arm, and I think you had mentioned something about him and Zach Lyles out there playing baseball. You know, during the week, and then showing up playing Friday night.
It's crazy.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I was going to jump on last night, just that Calhoun Cartersville game and the North Paulding Walton game.
Hmm.
Man, those were impressive to see. High scoring games. I think each game put up about 100 points. Calhoun Cartersville triple overtime. Amiri Winston and Caden Williams. Those are in Trey Townsend. Those are legit dudes. So those are next level talent right there. So that was a big win for Calhoun.
Yeah, I hated to see North Paulding lose that one, man, especially after they battled back, took
Yeah.
the lead 49-48, and then Walton comes down and kicks a field goal in the last minute to finish it off. But I mean, yeah, that was a great showing by North Paulding
Yes, it was. I
again
think
against the top
Walton.
4 team in the state.
Yeah, Walton's ranked. They're
Yeah.
top 5 team. I thought they could do it. I think Paulding County. That's a hotbed for high school football. There is a lot of good football played, whether it's north, south, east, west, wherever you're at in Paulding County. There's good football going on. So that's why I've been paying a lot of attention to Paulding County this season. There's a lot of next level talent coming out of there.
Yeah, I'd be curious if anybody was at the Dalton Hiram game last night that can chime in and tell me what happened, because I saw the box score on that game, and Hiram jumped out to a 28-7 lead, and
Yeah,
then Dalton came back and went ahead 52-28,
it's
and then
Tyson Greenway.
Hiram cut it to 52-45 in the fourth quarter, man. So it was like touchdowns everywhere.
Yeah, Tyson Greenway is cementing his legacy there at Dalton as one of the best running backs to come through there. Jameer Gibbs, elite talent. I think Tyson Greenway's catching up to him there. He's having a phenomenal season, and this is a phenomenal football player.
Zach Lyles over 100 yards tonight on the ground.
Yes, sir.
That's good to see, man. That's good to see. We saw Zach Lyles in the preseason versus Model. He got hurt second play of the game, and we didn't know how long it was going to take him to get healthy, but it looks like he's 100% now, and that's bad news for all the other teams in 7-4A.
Yep. I still think Central's going to make some noise. Heritage in Snoreville. I think Northwest has got to pick themselves up and do it real quick and get back at it. They don't want to be that last one out.
Yeah, we're going to find out pretty quick next Friday night. I think Sonoraville is going to Central.
Yeah.
And, that might be for that number 2 playoff spot,
Yep.
I mean, of course, so I'm sure the Phoenix are thinking about the number 1 spot, the region championship. But I'll tell you what, man, it's going to be tough to knock off Cedartown.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for anybody. I mean, you might be able to play with them for a little while, but Cedartown, they're ranked number 1 for a reason. So this is a legit contender out of Cedartown this year. I think they're exciting to watch. Harlem Diamond, that's a phenomenal football player. Absolutely outstanding talent. I think there should be a lot more attention paid to him from, the next level.
And Barrow also, Barrow at linebacker,
Yeah,
man.
Barrow.
He's a tackling machine. I mean, he's 15, 16 tackles every week, 6 tackles for loss tonight in the second half. I mean, he's somebody that needs attention from more schools.
Yeah.
How about your other boys up there in Dalton, man? The Christian Heritage Lions, 70 to nothing tonight over Ezo Harding. I think you called that one. You said Christian Heritage was going to win big versus out of state school. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the way Georgia schools match up against out of state schools. I think they've done really well this year. I think we saw several matchups with Tennessee schools and several more matchups with North Carolina schools. And Georgia seems to always come out on top. I think it's a different level of play down here in Georgia.
Yeah, Chris says Patrick Gardner is somebody else that needs to be looked at Cedartown. Underrated fella.
Yeah. And before the season, we were talking about Cedartown. This is a team that could have 3 1,000-yard rushers, maybe 4. So Patrick Gardner is another one, definitely.
Yeah, and you have to figure too that these guys have only played a couple of quarters in most of their games. Outside the Calhoun game and probably tonight. I mean, they're all rest by the second half.
Yeah.
Um, Speaking of number one teams in the state, man, how about the Bowden Red Devils tonight going down to St. Francis, who is a top 10 team in single A, beating them 23-18.
And you have to look at the circumstances that Bowden did that too. So Bowden is a tough football team. Uh, I think they're a contender in the D2, the single A D2. I think we have a lot of contenders here in Northwest Georgia, more than I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I had a head coach from another program preseason tell me that he guaranteed Bowden was going to win the state championship this year, and I'm starting to believe it now.
I'm starting to believe it as well. After that tonight,
Yeah,
so
they have
but,
a they have a tough one coming up next week. I think they are playing Mount Pisgah, and Mount Pisgah beat Mount Zion tonight 49-27. So that'll be another tough match for them.
because Mount Pisgah can sling it around the field. I don't know if you've looked at their stats, but there's a lot of passing yards happening down there at Mount Pisgah. A tremendous amount.
How about them Warriors tonight? The LFO Warriors, man. I'm glad
LFO
they
Warriors.
got their second win of the season, right? 30 to
Yeah,
10.
I'm glad to see that LFO Ridgeland game now a regular season game. I think it's good for the area that these two teams that are only separated by just a few miles are now going to compete every year. I think that's a good thing. And hats off to the Warriors. Big win tonight. Also, how about them Colts? Colts set a record. They come into the game 4-1, which the 4 wins matches Coahulla Creek's previous record of wins in a season. They were 4-6 last season, and they had a big win over Gordon Lee tonight to move them to 5-1. So I'll have to run the math. I don't know when this team can clinch, but it's coming. It's coming soon.
Kareem Bradley, 173 yards tonight for the Colts.
Wow. That's another guy. That's another weapon that they just keep popping up for Coahulla Creek.
They have a big one coming up next Friday night. I think they are traveling to Ringgold.
Yes,
That'll be a huge game.
that will be a very huge game. So I think Creek's going to look. I mean, this is going to be one of the bigger ones in the season for them.
Yeah, I think as the math works out, that is probably at least for the 2 spot.
Yeah, that could be for the 2 spot. I know Lafayette had a very good team put together this year. They've had some injuries. They're kind of down this season from it. They're struggling, but I think they can get back to it and still have a good football season. I think Ringgold's took that spot that I was thinking that could be that 2 or 3 spot. So next Friday very well could be for a home playoff game after Ringgold big win over Bremen tonight. So that's going to be a very important football game.
Yeah. Speaking of the Ringgold Tigers, man, they beat Bremen tonight. I can't remember the score. I don't see it scrolling across here yet. It's by at least a couple of touchdowns, right?
It was in the 30s. I'm wanting to say like 34-17. It was something. It was a pretty convincing win. It's a win that let everybody know, hey, we were a home playoff team last year, and we want to be again. So that there's going to be a lot of eyes on that Coahulla Creek Ringgold game next week.
Especially the way they came back this week after getting beat last week. I mean, the way they did, I don't think they were expecting to get blown out by Daresville last Friday night, but they took it on the chin and came back this Friday.
Yeah, it's a good football team. Sign of a good football team right there.
This guy says Cedartown has great coaching. Man, they're talented and deep. He don't believe anybody in 7-4A can hang with them.
He may be right. We're going to have to see. We got a few games left. There's a few chances, but the way Cedartown's playing, man, wow. I think they can do it. I don't want to jinx it and say, hey, they're going to go on and win this or that, but I'm just thinking maybe you guys should, at Cedartown, make sure you have some heavy jackets ready for this season because you could be playing well into the cold months.
Yeah, actually, this week, I get bored during the week and I actually looked at some of the playoff pairings coming up,
Yeah,
and actually 7-4A is actually predicted to win all 4 games in the first round.
I believe it. With this group of teams out of 7-4A this season, I believe it.
Yeah, they're playing that North Hall, Cherokee Bluff, East Forsyth, Chastity is who they're scheduled to play as of right now.
The teams we're seeing out of seven four
I
A,
mean, not 7-4. Yeah, 7-4A. Yeah.
yeah, those teams, the any one of the 5 teams who could possibly go in there in that play and get a playoff spot, they could all do very well. I think they could. I think they could go 4-0. Who knows? I mean, it's very possible.
This guy says Ringgold 35-14. So the defense only allowed 1 touchdown. Or this lady. Big shout out to Eli Barrow, man, number 12, leader of the Cedartown defense. Dude played like his hair was on fire. I'm not sure
Hey,
how you. Yeah, I'm not sure how you play with your hair on fire, but you know.
the Eli Barrow is one of the better linebackers in our whole area, our whole coverage area. So
Yeah, I saw one tonight in the game I went to. Eller, man, for trying.
Logan Eller,
Unbelievably
yeah,
stout dude, man, a beast. If he ever gets going full speed when he's running the ball, you're not going to stop him. I mean, you have to stop him in the backfield, or he's gone.
yeah. It for some reason it just does not feel like a normal Friday night. Well, because it ain't. Uh, because half the action happened on Thursday, and
Yeah. Let's see what we got going on. Make sure we covered everything. Like I said, if you want to jump in and tell us about the game you were at, man, we'll put you on. And he said the quarterback got hit a few times by that guy with his hair on fire tonight.
guy with his hair on fire touched
Yeah,
every blade of grass on the field. Probably
yeah. He said you need
he's
to
all
ask him
over
how a guy. Yeah, I need to ask him how a guy with a hair on his fire feels.
it. So
But yeah,
I seen some. I saw Gilmer rolling by there again. Uh, just a minute ago,
yeah, they're on
and
a roll, man. Big. I mean, I think that's the game of the week next week. You know, it's kind of a short schedule as far as like big time games next Friday night. Lumpkin County at Gilmer.
that could be for that 7 AAA title.
Yeah.
I think Gilmer's that good, so that could be for the 7-3A title right there. That game.
Chris says surprising loss by Villarica to Lithia Springs tonight. I don't think it was that surprising. I think all 3 of us picked that one last night. Springs was a 10-point favorite. I think the Wildcats got some work to do, man, if they're going to make the playoffs. There's some tough teams over there.
See North Paulding, man. That Walton North Paulding game, man. That was something. And how about the Armurchie Indians?
Yeah, how about those Armurchie Indians, man? Came out last night, scored
Yeah,
54 points. I don't think they've scored 54 points total for the season. They came out and
yeah.
did it last night against Chattooga. Kept their playoff hopes alive. Uh,
Now,
Jackson Jackson Coonley, 171 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns.
yeah, I saw that catch uh,
Jacob
last night.
Seagraves, yeah.
The Seagraves catch that was phenomenal. Okay, now they haven't scored 50 points since we looked it up. They haven't scored 50 points since 2008. And just a little trivia question: how many people think who the last team they scored 50 points was against? The last
Ye-
team they scored 50 against was North Paulding.
Yeah,
I don't think North Paulding was that old of a school or
I think,
back
yeah,
then.
I'm thinking that it might have been one like the first year or two North Paulding was a school. You know, they might have been playing some younger dudes, and
Yeah. So I think they beat North Paulding like 51-20 something back then.
this is something I hear from everybody that plays Northwest. Man, this is the same thing Darlington people told me. Uh,
Yeah.
Quarterback for Northwest is fast, super athletic kid. He can sling it.
He had a very long touchdown run. I think Owen Brooker had about a 70-yard touchdown run tonight. I think
Yeah,
I saw that come across Twitter.
I think he's another kid that's underrated in our area.
Yeah.
Like I said, Rome last night, 70-0 over Woodstock. It kind of looks like Cass and Dalton are going to square off for that 3 and 4 spot
Yeah.
in 7-5A. I mean, they still have Calhoun and Cartersville ahead of them. They could win the region title. I'm not saying they can't, but odds are probably not.
I'm gonna talk about the North Murray Mountaineers for a minute.
All right.
So I got to see a really cool play tonight. Griffin and Petty and Skylar Williams, Jaden Rice, pretty talented offensive there, but they made a great play on defense. John Craig and Carson Gibson and Liam Rogers blocked a punt. They all three got there, put their hands on it. And it bounced to Liam Rogers, and he took off and sprinted about 30, 40 yards for a touchdown. I thought that was pretty impressive. That was my play of the game right there. So that was pretty neat. So hats off to those guys.
This is Carol Runyon. Another shout out to Eli Barrow, one of the best linebackers in the state, if not the Southeast. Man, Barrow's getting tons of love. I've been wanting to get down and see Cedartown, but I know they're going to be in the playoffs, and that's definitely going to be one of my playoff spots. I don't want to get my Cedartown trip out of the way early.
Yeah. Save it for late. It might be coming late. I saw Temple with a big win. I know Coach Nix had there was some circumstances about last night's game that we couldn't change, but Temple still went out and showed that they were Temple, and they're a really good football team, 56-0. So.
And I saw today in the Georgia High School Football Daily that Cam Vaughn is the leading rusher in the state of Georgia coming into this week. I'm sure he added to that total last night.
Yeah.
With him putting up 56 points. I'm sure he had a few yards in that.
Yeah, he seems to have 250 every week. And this is a guy that can throw the football as well. So he's not just a running quarterback. He can throw it.
Wesleyan last night beating Lumpkin. I think that was a surprise to some. Lumpkin-Gilmer game, still a big one for Friday night. Walton, we said, beat North Paulding. Lithia Springs over Villa Rica. Cedartown, 39-7 over Central. Daresville, man, keeps rolling 49-7. I didn't see anything from that game, but I'm sure Bloom and Roper and Copeland, I'm sure those guys all probably got in the end zone at some point.
Yeah. Daresville is a complete team. And, 6 AAA's got that real tough first-round matchup. So you're going to face off a lot of tough teams. I wouldn't want to be number 4. You know who that's going to be.
Yeah. I just sit here looking at it. You got Cedar Grove, Sandy Creek, Carver, Atlanta, and Douglas are your 4 teams.
Yeah,
that they'll be squaring off against.
So whoever wins that region this year, you're going to get a more favorable matchup than you would if you were number 4. Good luck if you're number 4.
Yeah, I think I went ahead and did the odds just for fun, and like I said, the 1 seed is the only team from 6 AAA that's predicted to get out of that first round. The other ones are all 34.5 point underdogs.
Right, tough region. That is a very tough region. So that's more incentive to go out and win that region this year. You don't want to be in the 2, 3, and 4 spot.
Yeah, and like I said, we might find out week 10 who it's going to be. If the Colts can get by Ringgold next Friday night. Yeah, it's looking like a week 10 showdown.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge game. Ringgold, Coahulla Creek, for a home playoff spot. It could very well be for a home playoff spot. I know Creek still has Bremen on the schedule. They're a tough football team, and there's some other teams that can play with them. But next Friday, that's a big one. The Colts, Tigers, could very well be for a home playoff spot. And you lose that one, that region title might be out of the question because I don't see if Daresville having a loss. And the only time I see having a loss is maybe in that game 10, like you were saying. That's also going to be another tough one on that Colt schedule.
Yeah, this is a kid that we've been talking about, for the last couple of years, Ridge Red. Several big catches tonight. Kid's very special, great size and soft hands. Yep.
That's a very, very talented tight end right there. And the one thing I like about Ridge Red when we started watching him, his huddle film. Don't be afraid to put your good blocks on your huddle film. Everybody wants to lead off with those touchdowns, but when you're tight end or receiver, you got a great block that, like he can. Sometimes he's a sixth offensive lineman. Put that out there. That's good stuff to see.
Shout out to Jamie Dimon and Lee Jolly. They were elected to the Cedartown Football Hall of Fame. I mean, if you guys don't know Jamie Dimon, he's Harlem Diamond's dad. Great member of the community down there in Polk County. Man, does a lot of stuff for the kids. A couple of excellent choices there for the Polk County or the Cedartown Football Hall of Fame.
There's a lot of history behind that Cedartown Hall of Fame too.
Yeah, I guarantee he's going to be in there with Nick Chubb at some point down the line.
Yep. I'm thinking. I'm not sure, but Nick Chubb might be a unanimous decision. I don't know. It's a little iffy. Who knows?
They got a ton of guys down there, so I don't know, man. He might.
Yeah. So, where was Benton at tonight?
I'm not sure where he was, man. Me and him went ate Mexican before the Tri-Day game, and he hung around with us till about halftime, and he left. And I don't know what happened to him between. I mean, he might be laying in the parking lot up there and trying, for all I know.
He's asleep on the couch.
Yeah.
Harrison County bounces back big, 42-12 over Gordon Central. Harrison County still got a lot of games to play, but they still have a shot at the playoffs just because they took one loss. But that shot at the playoffs, it's going to make that Harrison County model game. Or did they already play? I don't know.
They have not played. They have not played yet.
Yeah.
The
model played, Rockmart this week.
Yeah. The game coming up next week in 7-2A that's important is Fannin County at Model.
Yeah.
That's going to be a real telling game.
Because that's a long travel for Fannin County. And Models, they've been doing really well. I mean, they struggle with Rockmart, but everybody struggles with Rockmart.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't see anybody within 3 touchdowns of Rockmart in 7-2A, you know.
They're a tough team.
If they take care of the penalties, I think they'd be undefeated right now. They might have even beat the Cedartown game 1 if they hadn't had 150 yards of penalties.
That's a lot of penalties. 150 yards. That changed the whole game.
Changed the whole game.
It's hard to win when you have penalties like that. Penalties and turnovers. It'll get you every time, regardless of whether it's Pee Wee football or the NFL. Penalties and turnovers. So. I think going forward, as we get more in the second half of the season, the teams that have cleaned up all the penalties and the turnovers, those are going to be the teams that are fighting for that region title and the home playoff games and, going on deep into the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a feeling that game next week, man, Fannin and Model, whoever loses that game, their backs are against the wall, man, when it comes to a playoff spot.
Yeah.
They're going to have to knock off some teams if they want to get in there.
Yeah, because Harrison County is going to have that same attitude also.
Yep.
We're going to have to knock off some teams to get in there.
Yeah, well, I believe that's it for tonight, man. We got it all wrapped up, man. Thanks for joining us. Next Friday night, we'll be back on Friday night. I don't see any hurricanes coming next week, so we probably just got the one night of football next week.
Yep, and a big Friday night where we got everybody like normal.
Well, Chris, I appreciate it, man.
All right, buddy. I'll see you later.
Thanks, man.
Take it easy, guys.